Today I'm going to be showing you guys what is in my watch collection, so let's get right into it. I've been into this crazy hobby that we call collecting watches now, going on 8 years. It's been an absolutely insane journey, a lot of ups, a lot of downs, and a lot of definite mistakes going and reaching this collection today that is still even changing, but there's no doubt about it that this hobby is absolutely amazing. The people I've met especially are, I think, the biggest thing that continue to drive me in this hobby. Obviously, the watches are great, but one thing is for certain is that watch collectors are just great guys. It's always fun to reminisce and talk about our hobby that we are so passionate about and talk about all the good times that we have with these watches and all the memories that we've made with them. So let's start first with the watch that I think is probably the most important watch and the most sentimental watch in my collection, and that is a Rolex GMT Master 2 Batgirl. Now, from the onset, this seems like pretty much any other GMT Master 2, right? Pretty ubiquitous watch, probably made, in the thousands every single year by Rolex. So nothing special to most people, I guess you could say, but it's such a special watch to me just due to how I acquired this. So for those who've been following me for some time, they know that I actually had a YouTube channel before I started at Luxury Bazaar. And it's actually how I met a number of people, including Nico, including Roman, and I would say it's probably one of the best decisions I ever made was actually starting that YouTube channel, because I probably wouldn't be sitting here in this chair today were it not for that. Now, I had started my channel, and really I mostly focused on kind of live streams, talking about watches with a panel of other people, which was a ton of fun to do. I always love speaking with other people, especially getting their thoughts and opinions about different watches in the industry and sharing my own. And the day that I actually did a live stream was one day on my birthday. At the time I had, maybe 500 or so subscribers. So my YouTube channel still wasn't even monetized. And I remember people asking me like, listen, is there any way that we can kind of donate to you? And, I was kind of a bit like baffled by the idea of people donating money to you just because, they met you online kind of thing. Obviously, I'd seen those crazy live streams on Twitch and things like that. But, it was pretty, I guess, a pretty alien concept to me, at least at the time. And what happened next, I could have never predicted. So essentially, I dropped the link to my PayPal, and from there, things just went absolutely nuts. About an hour in, I was actually at, roughly speaking, about $3,000 in donations, which is crazy to think about still to this day. $3,000!
Oh, who said that?
And then actually a really kind viewer by the name of Mr. 2 donated $1,000 and said, I hope that you guys, with crazy watch collections, outdo my donation by the end of the night. And then it just went absolutely bananas. I started getting donations at $1,010, $1,050, $1,200, $1,300, $1,500. I got two $3,000 donations, which was absolutely crazy, insane. And within 24 hours, I ended up getting just over $20,000. Which is still to this day, I have to pinch myself thinking about that amount, just because it's a crazy amount of money. And actually another viewer by the name of MJT, shout out to MJT, what a guy. He actually donated $3,000, which was insane, and contacted me the next day and said, listen, Marco, pick any watch you want from a Rolex AD and I'll get it for you for retail price. And I was a little stunned at the time. I was like, what the heck is going on kind of thing, right? I was still kind of in shell shock by what had just happened. And to me, my favorite watch from Rolex has always been the GMT Master 2. I think in terms of, functionality, looks, design, it's just a pure watch, right? Although the Daytona is probably more collectible, more iconic, I always preferred the GMT Master 2. And, I mostly wear kind of black and blue for the most part, gray. I have a very monochromatic style for the most part. So the GMT Master 2 Batman for me, especially on Jubilee, just because I thought it looked great and it's so comfortable, was perfect. And sure enough, I let him know that I wanted this watch, and 1 month later, it actually arrived at my doorstep. I paid the duties on it and ended up paying retail price for this Batman. But again, it's such a crazy story thinking about that night. I could have never imagined it would have turned out that way, but it's such a sentimental watch, especially because of the people that were involved. I made so many incredible friends through that YouTube channel, and this watch definitely is, I would say, emblematic of that journey, right? That 3 years that I spent making videos on YouTube, almost 3 years, making videos on YouTube and meeting some of the best friends I have in life still to this day that I still talk to on a regular basis. So yeah, no doubt about it, this is the most special watch in my collection. If I had to have no other watch, it would just be this. I would sell everything off and just keep this in my possession because it's just so special to me. And every time I wear it, it reminds me of those good times. So that's probably the watch I've owned the longest. And again, to kind of put it into context, I don't own watches prior to that. My first Rolex was a 114060 no date Submariner. I'd own a Panerai, a PAM 183 at the time. And the watch that kind of got me into watches, so to speak, was actually a pretty affordable watch. It was an Orient Explorer. I got off of this Backpage website kind of thing. I don't know where I found it. Might have been even Kijiji, to be honest with you, which is kind of like a Craigslist of sorts in Canada. And I had known nothing about mechanical watches. I don't, Citizen and Armani and things like that, but wouldn't have ever really considered myself a watch collector. And I just ended up buying that watch just because I thought it looked cool. It was so much going on the dial, and when I actually saw it in person and turned it over, I saw that kind of mechanical movement for the first time. I really fell in love, and ever since then, my journey of watches has evolved to this. But yeah, the second watch that I ended up getting, at least in this collection, because a lot of these have ended up moving on, I like to always keep my watches. That's one thing about my collection I'll say, is that it's changing pretty frequently, just due to the fact that if I don't wear something, I'm going to sell it. It's that simple. As much as I may have a sentiment, other than this watch, which other than the GMT Master 2, the Batgirl, I wear it all the time, but if it would just be a watch I would never sell because of the sentimentality of it. But everything else, for the most part, if I'm not wearing it, I don't keep it. It's that simple. But the second watch I ended up adding to my collection was a Laurent Ferrier Guerlain Square. And this watch is absolutely stunning. There's no other way around it. This dial is absolutely mesmerizing. I still, to this day, don't know of any other watch that I think really looks this good with this color of dial. I think the movement is just absolutely stunning. It's without a doubt one of the best finished movements on the entire watch market, and the price point of these, especially for Laurent Ferrier, is so reasonable for the incredible quality that you get. We're talking about a natural escapement, multiple interior angles, micro order movement. I mean, this is literally a mini city on wrist when it comes to the movement, not to mention, again, that natural escapement, which is done in so few watches just due to how technically difficult it is to do. I think this was a knockout release, and I call this kind of the one that got away from me, in the sense that I had actually purchased a Schwarz Etienne Roma Synergy with a dial from Kari Voutilainen. It was a collaboration that they did, and I love that watch. It was a phenomenal watch. Again, that's another one that's left my collection, but it's in the hands of a very good collector. Shout out to you. You know who you are. We had gotten this watch in, and it had been so recent since I'd purchased the Roma Synergy that I didn't want to sell it to get this, but I ended up selling this watch to another very, very good friend of mine and collector, and this was a watch that I always kind of admired and missed ever since I had sold it. And when it ended up coming back, I said, you know what, I got to keep it. So I ended up selling the Roma Synergy and bought this, and it's been in my collection ever since. But I will say this, it is a watch that I just don't wear anymore, and I think I'm realizing that I probably jumped the shark just a little bit. Part of me wants to go through that phase of collecting, I guess what you call your hype mainstream watches, right? The Daytonas, the Royal Oaks, even potentially, I love a 5164, just because of the look of it. And there's just something about them. They're so easy to wear every day on a daily basis, whereas this is a phenomenal watch. It's exceptionally special. It's better than all of those watches that I just mentioned, without question, from a technical standpoint. But it's just a little bit more difficult to wear. I'm finding that I like to wear watches on a metal bracelet. This not having a metal bracelet just doesn't do it for me like I thought it would anymore. And although, again, I really appreciate all the little details that make this special, it is a watch that I actually have moved on from now, and I'm actually selling it to a client of Luxury Bazaar, and it will be going off to a new home. But there's no doubt about it, I still absolutely love this watch, and it's very well possible that I will add it again in the future, because it is without a doubt an amazing watch. All right, let's move on to my third watch, which was actually a pickup I did this year, and it is a Casio GShock. But it's not your typical GShock. It's actually a Mr. G GShock. But I actually got this from a good friend of mine, shout out to Ali, who was very kind enough to get this for me brand new with a significant discount. So again, thank you so much. And I'll be honest, I was never a big GShock fan. In fact, I, for the most part, really hated GShock. They kind of always fit me very weirdly. They never fit my wrist properly, especially those kind of rectangular ones or those rounder ones. They were just too big. The strap was always too long for me. I like these kind of square G-Shocks, but there was never a design that I would say really appealed to me like that. But when I actually kind of was told about this watch by my friend Ali, I fell in love right away and I had to have it because this to me really is, I think, the ultimate G-Shock, right? Like I'm such a, I really have to go really be extra all the time in everything that I do. And this is definitely emblematic of that, right? Because this is a watch that retails, I believe, right around that 4,000 price range. Again, I didn't pay anywhere near that, thankfully, but it's such an incredible watch. First of all, it's made of a highly scratch-resistant titanium alloy that's DLC coated. I love the red accents. I love the gold accents also. I think they really pop. I love the just simple nature of this watch, all the functionality of it, and the design is just perfect. It wears phenomenal too on wrist. The bracelet is really well made. It actually has this really cool anti-theft mechanism. So if you pull down on this lever, you can actually unbuckle the watch. So great travel watch too, but it's literally a handmade and hand-finished G-Shock, right? So they fully redesigned the bezel, whereas, on normal G-Shocks, it's a one-piece bezel. This is actually made up, I think, of like 17 different components. All are hand-finished. The bracelet is completely hand-finished. And the sheen of this is very much like, I would say, like a ceramic royal oak. For those who haven't had the opportunity to see that watch in person, it's such a popular and eye-catching watch because the sheen of that ceramic is incredible, right? It's second to none. It's unlike anything else, right? It doesn't compare to a DLC coated watch at all. It's just finished beautifully, and the pop of it is incredible. And this is really the only watch I've ever seen that really rivals that in terms of like the pop of the black of the bracelet finishing. It's just, I can't describe it. It's just an incredible watch, and it's the ultimate G-Shock. Again, this is coming from somebody who never really cared for or ever really wanted a G-Shock in his collection. This is the first G-Shock I can say I've owned for more than a week. So that's saying something, right? So yeah, this is a definite keeper. Again, it came from a very, very good friend of mine, and there's no doubt about it. I'm going to keep this forever in my collection just because, again, I got it from a great friend. I love the design, love the look of it, and it's just so awesome to wear, so under the radar. And for what it is that ultimate if you know G-Shock. All right, so let's move on to the last watch in my collection. This was an addition I did, maybe only a few months ago, and I've absolutely been loving this watch ever since. I wore it actually today prior to recording this video, so I'm going to put it back on. It's actually the Omega Speedmaster. It's the 321 Ed White. To me, what I feel is probably the best Speedmaster ever made for a couple of reasons. First of all, the case size at 40 millimeters I think is absolutely perfect. I love this flat link bracelet with this solid clasp from Omega. It just feels very solid on wrist. It's not like your typical Omega that may feel not cheap. I think cheap is probably the wrong word, but it certainly just doesn't feel like it has the quality of a Rolex watch. And I think this definitely rivals even that of a Daytona, which is crazy from Omega because I wouldn't typically say something like that. And then, of course, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the incredible movement of this watch, the Lemania 2310, which obviously is a caliber that went to the moon. I'll be honest, highly inaccurate watch, right? Something I probably have to set, once every 5 days because it's not something that they can regulate. But you know what? The finishing of this is absolutely beautiful. I love the Sedna plated kind of movement. That rose gold movement is just awesome to look at. The movement architecture is phenomenal. And it's a super historically important watch, right, in terms of its movement. Another thing I really like is the ceramic bezel. Very practical as opposed to kind of the aluminum bezels of typical Speedmasters. And I'm generally not even a fan of Fotina, but I think it's really tastefully done in this watch. So I have to say, I think this is a watch without a doubt is going to be another keeper in my collection, especially because who I got it from. And it's from actually my good friend, shout out to you, JJ, from the YouTube channel JJ's Watch Hangout. If you haven't seen his videos, I often go on there. He runs probably what I feel are the best live streams and some of the best watch content on the entire platform of YouTube. So be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. But yeah, that's a good friend of mine. I've known him, going back to my first kind of days live streaming and making videos on YouTube. And he's become one of my best friends in the world, and there's no doubt about it. This watch is special because of that connection I have with him, and it's just a phenomenal watch overall. So super comfortable to wear. I think personally, I would place this even over a Daytona just due to, I think, the Moon watch being slightly more iconic, right? I think what it accomplished, beating out the Daytona in its race to space, makes it a more, in my opinion, prestigious wristwatch for that reason, although, again, the market definitely disagrees. I think, obviously, the quality of a Daytona is probably better than something like this, but no doubt about it, it's a special watch and one that will definitely continue to be in my collection. So now the question comes, what is next? Well, now that I've sold this watch, the Laurent Ferrier, it's a bit tough for me to know what I want to do with my collection, honestly speaking, because I'm at a point in my kind of time where I want to make smart financial decisions. And obviously this hobby is not for somebody who wants to make those. So I'm not sure if I want to put the funds towards maybe something like a house or put it into another watch. But if I had to say, there's a couple of watches I want to experience. One of them being a Panda Daytona, actually. Again, I know it's probably not the best watch. I think paying $30,000 to a certain degree is a bit crazy for especially a stainless steel mass-produced watch that retails for $15,000, which, again, I think it takes nothing away from the watch. It's absolutely spectacular. But there's just something about it. It's such a pure, perfect design. And it's a watch you can literally wear to anything and it would never be out of place. So part of me wants to experience that. Part of me wants to experience a Royal Oak. But I think the one I've been set on for a little while is actually a Patek Philippe on bracelet. Again, for those who know me, they know that Patek Philippe is really not necessarily my favorite brand in the entire world. They're just not up my alley. There's not many watches that I can say that I really want to own from the brand, which is crazy because they're arguably, one of the most prestigious and important watch brands in the entire world. But one of them really has caught my attention, and it's kind of pulling me in the direction of wanting to get it. And it's the Patek Philippe World Time, the reference 5130/1G. This is a World Time in white gold with a full white gold bracelet. I think is absolutely stunning. And 39 millimeters, I think it's the perfect size. I even love the kind of crown guards look to it. Again, it's got the complications, it's got the 240 micro rotor movement, which I feel is probably Patek's nicest looking movement other than, some of their manual wind chronographs. But yeah, there's just something about that watch that's calling my name. So if I do go in the direction of adding a new watch, that may have to be the one. But man, there's so many good watches out there that I still want to get and collect and ultimately enjoy for a very, very long time. But guys, let me know down in the comments what you think of my watch collection. What should be the next piece that I should add to it? Or should I be a little bit more smart and ultimately get a house instead? But guys, I hope you enjoyed me sharing my story of how I got into watches, where my collection is at. And of course, I can't wait to see what it looks like in the next 10 years or so. Guys, thank you so much for watching. As always, be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.